I'm constitutional attorney Catherine Henry, and I wanted to give you guys an update from a recent situation that demonstrates what accountability looks like for government officials here in the United States. So this example comes from the state of Florida. And for those of you who don't know, when attorneys or judges do something wrong that violates their code of conduct, that matter usually is heard by the state's Supreme Court. And there is often a commission or committee that makes a recommendation to the state Supreme Court on what action should be taken, if any, and what punishments, if any, should be taken for that bad behavior. So with that context in mind, we're going to turn to the Supreme Court of the state of Florida and the misconduct from a circuit court judge here in the state of Florida. In this Supreme Court of Florida opinion that was issued July 17th, 2025, you can see that this is regarding Judge Stephanie Moon of the 17th Judicial Circuit. This is a circuit court judge. Now, what's interesting about this is that it point blank says that Judge Moon has admitted to Code of Judicial Conduct violations involving inappropriate campaign activity, prohibited ex parte communication, and prohibited political contributions. That's three separate things. So, the first of these instances is that Judge Moon first admitted that while she was sitting on the bench and while wearing her robe, she asked an attorney why he had not returned her call about serving on her re-election committee. The attorney had just completed a hearing before the judge, and the question left the attorney concerned about whether his failure to support her re-election campaign would hurt his clients. That's the first issue. Next, she admits that she engaged in ex parte communication with the mental health therapist of a party in a divorce case pending before her. And finally, she admits that between 2020 and 2024, she made financial contributions totaling over $2,000 to political organizations and candidates, including Act Blue and the campaign funds of President Biden and Vice President Harris. So what I find interesting is, first of all, they point out here, this is the Supreme Court of Florida, stating that Judge Moon's conduct implicates multiple provisions of the Code of Judicial Conduct. And they point out that judges must always act in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. And they cite other canons that she violated as well. But they point out here that our court does not often come upon a judicial discipline case in which a single judge has violated the code of conduct in such distinct ways in wholly unrelated incidents. So she's violated the code of conduct by three totally separate scenarios, and they're all egregious. They also state that her conduct is unacceptable. And then they point out that the commission had already cautioned her in 2019 for improper campaign activities. But the commission is recommending a very tiny amount of discipline in this matter because they're crediting her cooperation, remorse, and acceptance of responsibility. Now, they say that while we defer to the commission's assessment of her contrition, we stress that the court cannot tolerate any further misconduct by Judge Moon. But here's the thing. So they approved of a stipulated between the Commission on Judicial Conduct and the judge. The two parties there filed a second amended stipulation and amended findings and recommendations of discipline. So this court, the Supreme Court of Florida, is accepting that stipulation. So all that she gets is she's suspended from judicial duties for 10 days without pay. She has to pay a fine of $2,115.40, which is the amount equal to her improper political contributions. And finally, she has to appear before the Supreme Court of Florida for the administration of a public reprimand at a time to be established by the clerk of the court. That's it. So this judge, again, going up here, she admitted to doing improper campaign activity from the bench while wearing her robe and in a manner that made an attorney fear that him not helping her out in her re-election campaign would negatively impact a court case he has in front of her. She engaged in prohibited ex parte communications on a case in front of her and contributed prohibited political contributions, donations to re-election campaigns that are political in nature. So all three of those things she openly admits to, and this is not the first time, as they had to warn her in 2019 about this very kind of activity before. But yet, even though they stress that they cannot tolerate any further misconduct by Judge Moon, all she gets is the 10 days with no pay, a $2,100 fine, and a public reprimand.